Hey, what's going on guys, Migzuba here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a mono black aggro deck for standard best of one. So I've played a ton of mono black on the channel before. We've played Discard, Devotion, Auras, Control, but I've never actually piloted a mono black aggro deck for the channel, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So this deck was made with two main matchups in mind. One is aggro mirrors. A lot of the best of one meta will just be a race, and we have a lot of cards that help us do that. And the other part of the meta that you're going to be facing a lot is Sultai Ultimatum. So we have a couple card choices in the deck that'll help you kill them before they get to actually cast that, or kill them after they cast that at the absolute worst case scenario. So get into the list and explain all of the card choices. We have one Cling to Dust. Now, while the deck is mostly made for aggro and Sultai, or to take on aggro and Sultai, you will face rogues a certain percentage of the time, and Cling to Dust is great in the rogues matchup. Being able to clean out your yard and get you some more cards and some more life is really good, and we also have Skyclave Shades for that matchup. So we're good against that little side of the field. We have Eye Twitch. Now, I think one of the main reasons Mono Black hasn't been as popular, or not very good, is because of the lack of good 1-drops. Red, white, and green all have better 1-drops, even blue with these snow cards, they all have better 1-drops than black does. And in Best of One, the Eye Twitch is a 1-mana 1/1 flyer that can get a couple points of evasive damage in, is very good. When it dies, it learns, and based on the fact that we're in Best of One, the learn board is basically free. So we'll go over it really quickly. We have an Environmental Sciences in case you really need some lands. Necrotic Fumes is a removal spell. We have a couple creatures that we don't mind getting rid of to blow up a thing in case we really need to. Inkling Summoning is what I typically fetch most often. It provides another body and another flyer to get those last couple points of damage in. We have a Pest Summoning in case you need to go wide or provide some fuel for your Necrotic Fumes, and a Mascot Exhibition in case you reach the point in the game where you can cast this card and it can maybe win you the game, goes pretty wide. Anyways, that's the learn board, and we don't learn all that much, basically just off the Eye Twitch death trigger. The other 1-drop we have is Serrated Scorpion. This card most of the time will get you 2 life and 2 damage, so it's good in those racing scenarios. It's also a good blocker like Fervent Champion, doesn't attack well into it, trades with Fireblade Charger, blocks all the white 1-drops except for the 2-1 that boasts. You guys get the idea. The card's pretty good, and it will most of the time get you at least 2 damage off its death trigger. It's also part of the reason we can race with aggro. We have a couple cards that gain life, and Serrated Scorpion is one of them. Speaking of cards that gain life, we have the Shadow Spear. I've been playing this a lot in Best of 3 in my sideboards, and it's been putting in so much work in any type of aggressive mirror. So I want to try it out here. It gives trample and 1/1/1 and lifelink. It also has that clause where permanents your opponent control lose hexproof and indestructible. So if you're facing like Clothis that's animated or alive, or like Dream Troller for whatever reason, keep in mind that you have that, but it's mostly here for the 1/1/1 and lifelink. Trample can end up mattering too in case your opponent's trying to chump block. But yeah, it really helps us race, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of this card. The more I play it, the more I like it, so keep that in mind. It's also really good with the Skyclave Shade. Now, this card is typically terrible in any type of aggro mirror, especially against mono red, like on the draw, because it can't block and you're just going to get beaten down. But a Skyclave Shade that's equipped with a Shadow Spear is gaining you 4 life a turn, and since it can't block, you're just going to attack with it anyways. And even if it trades into something, you're at least gaining that life back. So I'm a huge fan of this combo, and like I said before, it gives us leverage against rogues, and it's a recurring threat against Sultai. Kitesail Freebooter is a 2-mana 1/2 human flyer. This is here for the Sultai matchup. When it ETBs, target opponent reveals their hand, you choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, exile that card. So we can slow down Ultimatum, or we can steal Ultimatum. Most of the time, we just want to slow them down so you can kill them before they cast it, but sometimes the deck won't be fast enough because of our slightly subpar stats, so you might need to take an Ultimatum. It's also a 1/2, again, decent blocker, and can get in some evasive lifelink damage with the Shadow Spear. For removal spells, we have 2 Eliminates and a Heartless Act. We also have like some Murderous Riders here, and we have Rankle to help us get rid of some creatures. The reason we only have 1 Heartless Act is because of the Hunted Nightmare. It puts a Death Touch counter on a creature, so you can't Heartless Act a creature with a counter on it. Slight nombo, but I think it's still worth running 1 Heartless Act for bigger creatures, and that's why we run 2 Eliminates, to help us in those aggro matchups where we can just like blow up a cheap creature. Anyways, aside from that, we have the Paragon. A flash creature is pretty cool, so we get to hold open removal or our Paragon. If it blocks, we gain 3 life, and if not, it's just a instant speed 3/1 flash threat, so the opponent might have a bit more trouble removing it than normal. Good body, good aggressive threat, helps us counter race, can make some good blocks. The Death Touch is also useful for the blocking claws, can trade with like Torbrand without a cleaver or something like that. Anyways, moving on, we have the Demonic Embrace. There is a little bit of discard in the deck with like Rankle, and you're pretty happy to discard your Embrace. It's also a really good stat buff. The +3/+1 and flying is really cool, even though a lot of our deck already has flying. It's also here just as a recurring way to use our extra lands that we draw, so it's a nice little aggressive aura. We have 400 Nightmare. 3 mana 4/5 is a great stat line with Menace, so the opponent will have to double block it. Hopefully that the Death Touch counter doesn't end up mattering all that much, and the opponent's just trying to attack into us and we're trying to race. And ideally we have some life linkers like the Scavenger or the Murderous Rider on the board, or we have a Shadow Spear on the field to help us gain some more life. But yeah, the Hunted Nightmare has been pretty cool. It's an interesting card. It has some downside, but I think it's one of our better 3-drops we can play in mono black aggro. We have Murderous Rider, removal spell, can also take out planeswalkers, and a creature, helps us gain some life. Any creature equipped with an Embrace is a really massive threat. I've actually loved the combo of Murderous Rider plus Demonic Embrace in like mono black Devotion decks. So we're going to see how it works out today for us in the aggro version. We have the Scavenger. This card is mostly here to help us race against aggro. Any deck that has multiple permanent types, it is good against. Basically, Fabled Passage helps buff this thing's power. Creatures help buff this thing's power in the yard after you kill them. Any deck that runs instants or sorceries will help make the Scavenger bigger. Really good at racing against aggro, and a must-answer threat against Ultimatum or any type of control matchup. And lastly, for our quote-unquote top end, we have Rankle, a 4 mana 3/3 haster to help us get those last couple points of damage in. Can make your opponent draw 2, make them lose a life, so basically guarantees you 4 points of hasty damage. You can discard extra cards like the Shade, Cling to Dust, or Demonic Embrace. Those are virtually free discards, and if you need to, you can sacrifice a creature like an Eye Twitch to deal with a more important threat. Rankle's good, wouldn't play more than 3 copies of it. Now, the main benefit we get for being a monocolored aggro deck is the Faceless Haven. This card's great in mono white, it's great in mono red, and some Winota decks are even like using a snow mana base for it. This card really does help us close against Ultimatum, and especially other slower control decks like Blue-White or Dimir. More so Blue-White because Dimir can just like Heartless Act it at instant speed, but Blue-White has a ton of trouble dealing with Faceless Haven. They have to run like Fields of Ruin. So it helps us fight a battle on 2 fronts. 1, they have to respect our Snowland. 2, they have to respect our creatures. And we run 1 Locthwain because sometimes drawing a card will be better than activating your Faceless Haven. Like if you know they're holding open a Heartless Act and you just don't want to send your land into a removal spell, drawing a card can be pretty good. So I think it's worth running the 1 copy of Locthwain. Anyways, guys, if you like the deck, it will be in the description down below as always, and consider dropping a like on the video. Also, consider subscribing. It motivates me to make more content. So that's gonna be it for me, guys. Let's get into some games. Okay, hand is good, but we're going to need some lands. Absolute worst case scenario, if Eye Twitch dies, we can fetch an Environmental Sciences, and we hit land 3 that way. Also Swamp, okay. So probably Thieves Guild Enforcer. This is the first time I have faced rogues in a while, but it might not be Thieves Guild Enforcer, we'll see. Also, hitting land 3 is pretty good, it means we get to play all these cards. Okay. And now we want them to mill what? I mean, there's a bunch of stuff, right? The Cling to Dusts, the Skyclave Shades, all pretty good. Brazen Borrow or Bounce, okay. That's pretty expensive. So what, do I just get this down now? Give this thing Death Touch? It's already gonna get Death Touch. Sounds like a pretty good time. And a 3 mana 4/5 is very aggressive. Right now the Scavenger is just a 1/3, so it doesn't seem amazing. Okay, we hit land 4, which is pretty cool. They'll be able to trade with the Borrower if I just play the Rankle. Let's get aggressive. If they want to play a second creature and trade 2 creatures for my Nightmare, that's completely fine. They cycle a Shark Typhoon. Okay. They can block my eye twitch this way. And they double block. Okay. That's actually completely fine. Opponent blatantly 2-for-1ing themselves. And let's get on the board some more. 3/3 Scavenger because they have an enchantment in the yard. And the fact that we have Scavenger means that if they have rogues on the board, it plays around Crippling Fear, which doesn't we don't actually play around with Crippling Fear here, but you know, we do what we can. So what do we grab? Summoning and Sciences, maybe? I can grab Necrotic Fumes and Inkling Summoning, that seems okay. But maybe we do just want more land. I think we grab an Inkling Summoning for sure. And maybe Removal Spell. Let's grab the Sciences. More land at some point seems pretty good. But when? Freebooter's interesting. I'll be able to see what's in their hand, tax them on something. Okay. I like Freebooter. Or not even tax them on something, take something. And taking Counterspell seems pretty good. Agadeem's right now reanimates just a Thieves Guild Enforcer. So let's take this. And do I hit my land? What can I do with 5 mana? With 5 mana I can play Inkling Summoning and Paragon, but I think just playing Paragon's fine for now. If I really want to next turn, I can play the Sciences and play the Inkling Summoning. Opponent passes, and we can get the Paragon on the board. They will be able to trade with my Freebooter if they want to use the Brazen Borrower. Okay, well at least we know that Rankled's gonna hit now. Cool. So he played out. Opponent didn't mill anything that's particularly useful in the graveyard. And let's go to discards a card. I think I can get rid of Sciences. Actually, I mean, this is another creature, but animating Faceless Haven's almost like having a creature. I do want this for the Brazen Borrower. Let's get rid of the Summoning. But we're so likely to draw some lands. Alright, let's get rid of Sciences. Tough choice. Opponent's going to get rid of land anyways. And if we draw untapped land here, it's so good. And we don't really need to work for it via the Sciences. Okay. Cool. Assembly Worker. Nice. So Swamp. Nice. Swamp hits the board. I animate my land. And now the opponent is on a 3-turn clock starting now, and we can shoot something if they want to play a main phase creature. No main phase creature. Let's go for this again. Let's see if they drew into a removal spell. If they didn't, then that's unfortunate. Borrower can't attack. Sorry about my throat there. Do I play this into Counterspell? I think so. If they're spending 3 mana to counter a Serrated Scorpion, we're pretty happy. And they play Borrower. Sure, no biggie. Right now, they're technically dead on board if they don't do anything. Okay, opponent doesn't do anything. Let's animate the land. We have 5 damage on board. And a Heartless Act. They have a Counterspell, so we'll see how that ends up going. We can force out a Didn't Say Please here if they cycle a shark or something. Oh, they just cycle for a 3/3 shark, so now they're dead. Cool. GG's. And we just hit them for 5. Should have countered my Scorpion. I mean, they flashed in a Borrower that wasn't doing anything. We were on like 23 life, I think. So yeah, like I said, even though we didn't draw our anti-rogues cards, we do pretty good in any sort of race situation. Okay, I mean, this hand is fine. There's no 1-drop, but we have a nice 2/3/4, and we have Castle. Okay, Snow-Covered Plains comes down. Uh-oh, play draw might be an issue if they have a Luminarch Aspirant on two. Uh-oh. Put it on the Alseid. Put it on the Alseid. Okay. That's good. So they're going to be gaining some life, but I think it's fine. We have to shoot this now. And it's pretty funny, we have mostly eliminates in the deck anyways. Okay, other Alseid comes down. Pro Black seems pretty nice in the matchup. Third Alseid comes down. Very cool. Alright, and now we can just play a Scavenger. Lifelink back, plus it blocks very well. What you got, opponent? And opponent passes. Okay, so I'm going to play my castle now. I'm going to start attacking back. They're stuck on 2 lands. They can't attack into a Scavenger. And I'm going to play slightly mana efficiently and play my second Scavenger just because it's such a house of a card. And Rankle's not very good when they have all these Alseids. But a 2/3 lifelink flyer seems really good. So before I attack, I want to see what's in their hand. I think it's worth playing this pre-combat just to get a nice little sneak peek. Sparring Regimen, Maul of the Skyclaves. Lots of 3s. So what do I care about the most? We could take Maul. I think we take Maul, right? Sure. We'll take a Maul so they can't get in the air. And I could actually take the Sparring Regimen too, but I think they're more incentivized to go for these apparitions anyways. And I'll attack. We have Paragon at instant speed. And gaining life back and putting them on an actual clock seems pretty good. Okay, there's land 3 was bound to happen. And there's the apparition. Number 1 comes down. Okay. Eventually these will die. Okay, 2/2 Alseid comes in. 2/2 Alseid does not come in. Okay, 2/2 Alseid does come in. Let's play the Paragon. And trade with it. Loris is going to be a long-term problem. Okay, that's pretty funny. So, Rankle. And we attack. But then they're going to play second Apparition. But we force them to get rid of something. And if they get rid of something, it means that they're not attacking us back. Or they're not taking... They're either leaving us with a Scavenger or a Rankle. So I actually think this is fine. We attack with these 2. We make them... I don't think we sacrifice a creature. We just go discard a card. Do we draw? I'm not sure. No, I think we want to keep them on 3 lands for as long as we can. Can discard a freebooter. It can hit the Sparring Regimen, but I'm not in a huge rush to do so. And I think having Shadow Spear is more important. Okay, opponent discards Luris. That's actually what I was very worried about. Okay. So I'm guessing Apparition comes down. There's a Faceless Haven. Good draw. Sparring Regimen. What do they learn for? Reduced to memory? I guess they're worried about my spear. What do you attack with? Maybe they just want the freebooter gone. Okay, they're putting the counter on the Alseid to gain some more life. Okay, no blocks. Seems okay. Land, I mean, land isn't horrible. It means I can equip here. So do I hold back the Scavenger? I mean, we're gaining 7 life, they're gaining 3. but I guess it prevents... I mean, it doesn't prevent another attack. I think we race. Well, it's actually a very interesting spot. I definitely want to attack with Rankle. But let's say they get one other counter and they put it on the Alcide, then I can block and trade. The opponent just scoops it up, alright? They're very impatient. Yeah, so from here we attack with Rankle, force them to discard a card. I still don't think we make them sacrifice a creature, and then we can draw with Castle on their end phase, which is pretty nice. And I don't know, it seems like we're at a, I don't know, it seems like a stalemate to me. They can take out my Rankle or my Scavenger, but the regiment will get them value every single turn, and they still have like double protection, and if they really wanted to, they could like remove this and remove this. We have the Spear for lifelink, they have a bunch of life as well, and while we have Castle, they have Faceless Haven. I don't think you're supposed to scoop here, maybe they're just getting impatient. Okay, we're missing some black, but I think this is a keep. As long as we draw one basic swamp or even Castle Lockthwain, we're chillin', and we can play 1-drop, 2-drop, and hopefully 3-drop, 4-drop. Let's see how punished we get for these Faceless Havens. Not looking amazing just yet. But if iTwitch dies, we can also fetch Environmental Sciences, which is something to keep in mind. An opponent is holding 1 red mana, so either they do have the card, the, what's it called? Frostbite, or it's a Rimrock Knight, and we see Mazemind Tome, so it looks like mono red control. Play the Paragon. Let's see if we're going to hit a black source. We actually do hit the black source. So instead of committing more to the board, I think I want to play the Embrace. It gets more damage in right now, and the opponent will have to respect my creatures, but then Bone Crusher Giant looks really, really strong. But on turn 3, what can they do? I don't think there's much they can do. They could crush the weak, but this gets past it. So this actually also gets past a ton of red sweepers, and it looks like mono red control. So we're going to play the Nightmare now. Could have also played it post-combat, but it doesn't really matter. All they have is a Mazemind Tome, which they might just do on end step anyways. Yeah. Okay. The reason I didn't play the Nightmare, or was considering not playing the Nightmare, was because of the 3-mana Dragon Sweeper for 1 double red, but I realized like they have nothing in the yard, so even though it's technically a turn 3 play, the Hunted Nightmare, well, it doesn't do anything to my board, right? And the Hunted Nightmare right now comes down onto a board with no creatures, so no Death Touch. Cool. Play second Faceless Haven. So is this a Rankle turn? Or is this a animate Faceless Haven turn? They might have Frostbite, which would be a very big issue. But let's say they do just play Frostbite, then they take, what, 8? And they have the same problem next turn. Or it's Rankle that also might die to Frostbite. I think we go for the Rankle. I think having a creature get killed is more important, or is less important than having a land get killed. Let's go. There's the Frostbite. Okay. That's completely fine. And now Mazemind Tome Scry is holding priority. And they go to 7. We have a virtually hasty 3 points of damage and a virtually hasty 4 points of damage. Plus, Nightmare is very difficult for blue-red to kill. They can bounce it, but they can't deal with it super well. Okay, Freebooter. Let's play land. I could go for Freebooter plus Demonic Embrace, which is pretty funny, and so the question is, do we want to commit to the board some more? Or do we want to just animate Haven, attack, and then see what's up? I think we play the Freebooter and see their hand. Force them to use any action right now, and then see how far Embrace can get us. We're being hyper aggro and really playing to the board right now. Okay. So, slight problem in... I mean, Mystical Dispute isn't great. Brazen Borrower can only block the Eye Twitch, but it's probably going to end up bouncing something. Okay, so Brazen Borrower is a reason that I should have just animated land and attacked. I guess I'm more worried about Epiphany, but like whatever. I could force or kind of force a dispute. Let's attack. If they use their Brazen Borrower, I can just replay whatever they bounce second main. Yep. So I think that was the wrong play. I think I should have just animated my Faceless Haven, but it's fine. We'll play the Nightmare. Sorry, and now the opponent's at 3, so they're like super dead to a ton of stuff, and they still don't get the Death Touch counter. And we know most of their cards. They're going to see 2 more cards that we're not going to be able to know, and they're going to go up to 7 life via the Maze Mine Tome. Okay, animate Haven. It doesn't look all that great in the face of a 4/5 Menace. 3 mana 4/5 Menace with quote-unquote no downside seems pretty good. That's aggressive. That's very aggressive. I could do it again. I'm going to animate the land. Let's say they do have Brazen Borrower. And they scry. They take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? Yep. So we animate the Haven. They could spend the mana on scrying, but that's kind of whatever. I mean, to draw a card. Doesn't do anything. And we full send face. So I definitely think animating Haven a turn earlier was the play, but I don't hate the spot we're in. So what, they need like Frostbite, but even then they need double Frostbite kind of. And yeah, they scoop it up. So yeah, even if they had 1 Frostbite, we're hitting for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, you know, we're in a pretty good spot. A 3 mana 4/5 Menace that comes down and doesn't give a Death Touch counter to anything is really, really good, especially on the play. Alright guys, and we are back. So quickly I want to mention, I noticed that there's no audio in the intro, or not no audio, but no game audio in the intro, and I think that's fine. I basically just babble on about the deck for a little bit. I don't know what's going on. My Streamlabs half the time doesn't pick up game audio when I boot it up, and I always have to like double and triple check. I have to do like a couple test recordings, and I just kind of forgot today. So the games should have audio, but the intro might not. And I think the audio during the games is way more important. And I already recorded the intro like 20 times. I am god awful at intros, believe me. I am somewhat of a perfectionist, and whenever I like make one type of verbal error, it physically hurts me and I restart. Anyways, that's enough babbling on for the outro. I like the deck. I think it performed really well. It did pretty much exactly what I wanted it to in Aggro Mirrors, where it raced very well. You saw the Rogues matchup, where we're not built to beat it, but we have 3 key cards in Clinton Dust and Skyclave Shade, and we didn't even need those cards. We just managed to kill them. Although it wasn't the typical mill you out Rogues deck, it was more of a Zareth San Shark Typhoon control version. Anyways, we actually didn't face Ultimatum today, which, if you saw my last video, or you listened to the outro, you know I faced a ton of Ultimatum that day, so kind of wishing those sessions were inversed, but anyways, doesn't really matter. The deck is cool, the deck is a lot of fun, and if you want to play an aggressive mono black deck, try it out. It will be in the description down below as always, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.